24 years after the first season of the show came out, I finally watched it. Not the first season, but the entire series. A series that became iconic and without which many other great TV shows wouldn't have happened. But what show are you talking about? The 1999 Passion series, of course. Did you read the title before you clicked on the video? Okay, I can't fool you guys. Of course I'm talking about The Sopranos. I watched a lot of movies and TV series, but I always hesitated to dive into The Sopranos. I was afraid that I might not be smart enough to truly appreciate this masterpiece. It's not just a cult series, it's the show that transformed the television industry into what it is today. And I had a fear, honestly, that I suddenly wouldn't be able to get into The Sopranos and what people would think about me then. But one day I got up the courage to start watching this TV show, and I fell in love. I was lucky that I was hooked by the series from the very first episode, which is quite rare, and I realized that my intelligence is alright. I hope so. I binge-watched all 6 seasons and I'm ready to convince you to at least give it a try and dedicate some of your time to this masterpiece. Although everyone has heard of this series, but not many have actually watched it, which is quite unfortunate. Even for those who have watched it, please don't close this video. As a minimum, you will be able to get a nostalgia, and as a maximum... Well guys, the video is not long and if you close it now, YouTube will not thank me, so watch it till the end. Thank you. What is the Sopranos series about? In fact, it's hard to answer that question like that. In some clever book, I can't remember which one. Yes, I read. Sometimes I do. I read that it is very important that the movie can be described literally in 1 or 2 sentences and intrigue the viewer with these sentences. For example, Breaking Bad. A high school chemistry teacher gets cancer and dives into the drug business to leave money for his family after his death. Well, I already got the goosebumps. Or the movie Drive. Ryan Gosling meets a girl. You know, in case of Drive, 2 words are enough. Ryan Gosling, to interest the viewer. In the case of The Sopranos, I came up with a little test to see how to figure out if you'll fall in love with the series, or if you will, but not immediately. The Sopranos can be described like this: a tough gangster who catches a panic attack and has to go to a psychiatrist, combining treatment and criminal life. And that completely describes the series. All seasons we watch as Tony Soprano, brilliantly played by James Gandolfini, solves problems in his criminal life, then comes home and solves family problems, and then talks about it to the doctor and how well it is all working together. The family drama isn't boring and it's really very interesting. Every dialogue between Tony and his wife Carmela really interesting. Each episode of Tony's criminal life itself is also filmed and played perfectly. And as a cherry on the cake is Tony's soulful or aggressive dialogues with a shrink. For me, it was a revelation because I would never have thought that I would be so interested in family drama and dialogues with the doctor, but the talented people did their job. As you all know, in the past, most of TV series were made with a vertical plot. In each series, the characters are still the same, but each time they face new challenges and so on. So every time there is a new plot, but the same characters. Basically, the same setting. And all the characters are as straightforward as possible. Well, there was a good guy who remained a good guy, and while things could change from season to season, it wasn't a radical transformation. This was done so that viewer could continue watching the series from wherever they wanted, even if they had missed 1 or 2 episodes without caring much about the previous episodes. After all, before there were no streaming services as now, and if you wanted to watch a series you had to turn on the TV on a strictly designated day at a strictly defined time and watch the series of your show, or just wait for a repeat of the episode. Therefore, TV series were designed to ensure that viewers who missed a couple of episodes wouldn't get confused. The Sopranos was indeed one of the first shows to break away from the traditional vertical plot structure, introducing a more horizontal approach. In other words, the events in one episode were directly influenced by the previous one. You couldn't easily skip an episode and then casually continue watching the series. Sopranos series began to combine horizontal and vertical plot, and they did it perfectly. In each series there is a logically completed storyline of a particular episode, but at the same time the series moves the whole plot, a plot that goes on for 6 seasons. Well, again, bravo. To unite the vertical and horizontal plot is a really difficult task, with which the creators of The Sopranos have coped well. And the second, to me, is extremely important invention of The Sopranos. It's the anti-hero in the show. Today we all want characters like Walter White, individuals with complex moral compasses, characters who can be both good and bad simultaneously, but never indifferent. These are multidimensional and morally challenging characters. However, during the time when The Sopranos premiered, finding such characters on television was likely considered almost impossible. Tony Soprano was the first character to set a trend for deep anti-heroes. You could empathize with him, genuinely hate him, then empathize with him again, analyze how you would act in similar situations, then sympathize with him again, and then think you no longer sympathized. Full spectrum of emotions. By the way, even Bryan Cranston himself said that if there was no Tony Soprano, there would be no Walter White either.
Would Breaking Bad have been made if we didn't have The Sopranos?
I don't think so. Creating a character like Tony Soprano was certainly paving the way to allow the space for someone like Walter White to exist.
We are all used to the fact that gangster movies show the life of mafia bosses as glamorous, extravagant and bright. The Sopranos, on the other hand, offers a grounded version of this world. Mob bosses, after their encounters with other crime families, return home in the evenings to their ordinary families, just like regular people. They argue with their wives, raise their children, and face a set of problems in their personal lives that are no less challenging than the criminal aspects. In fact, the personal dimension of their lives is just as complex as crime part. On the one hand, The Sopranos can be called a deconstruction of mafia movies, and partly it will be true. After all, as I said, the series is down to earth and realistic. But still, The Sopranos doesn't just deconstruct the genre, it represents a new approach, because the actions in the series are down to earth and realistic. Moreover, all the personalities within the series are also either imitating characters from cult gangster movies or just want to be like them.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
But criminal world is different in real life. The real world is brutal and unattractive. This series embellishes almost nothing, and it's like you're really watching the real life of mobsters whose problems are not only in the underworld, but in the real world too. This series doesn't even provide answers to many of the questions posed, and it does so intentionally. It does not show what happened to many characters, because this is life. We are not given to know the answers to many questions, neither big nor small. And speaking of supporting characters, although it feels wrong to label them as such, each of them becomes like family to you. They are brilliantly developed and multi-layered, with their own flaws and positive qualities. Christopher Moltisanti is a character that I believe many people adore. I'd love to tell you more about him, but I'll refrain from doing so to avoid spoilers. Let's make a deal. After watching this video, you should hurry to start watching The Sopranos, and I'll hurry to create a big analysis video with spoilers about The Sopranos series. Deal? In conclusion, I can say that this series is a truly masterpiece. It has contributed numerous elements to the world of the cinema and the television, without which it's hard to imagine the modern cinematography. The legacy of the series is significant, and it's wonderful that each of us can enjoy the show. its characters and its stories again and again.